friends, welcome to this new video on the evolution of web from early days of dynamic web to present day dynamic web. As the name suggests, in this video we will be discussing about the evolution of web from developer's perspective, from the perspective of a web developer. So as you can see, that if we talk about the journey, it all started with coding from scratch. So in the early days, we used to code everything from scratch. And for that, we used to have languages like PHP, Python, JavaScript. So we used to code everything. Then there came the concept of packages. What we did, the functionality which can be reused multiple times, we bundled those functionalities into components. So we bundle the code of those functionalities into components. So here there are two things, library and package. Both are different. So what is a library? Let us suppose an individual functionality, we call it as library, and collection of library is a package. Let us suppose there is a package for networking. Let us suppose your web application is using the functionality of networking. So it will import the networking package, and in the networking package there will be libraries to manage individual functionality like uh, transmission control protocols, UDP, or some other stuff, encryption, decryption, network security, etc., etc. So there are many packages available. Let us suppose packages related to computer vision, packages related to artificial intelligence, security, packages related to networking, file handling, etc., etc. The list goes on. Then there came the concept of templates. So to understand template, as a web developer, I am quite sure that you must have definitely have gone through Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a template. It is a template to design user interface. So in template, what we do, template is a ready-made code which you can use and you can fill in your own data. So in template, you will get a code and there you can pass your own data and you can populate it with your own data. So that is templates. So the best example is Bootstrap. And then there came the concept of frameworks. What is a framework? Framework is a collection of each and everything which is common to every web application. So whenever you make any web application, there are many things which are common to all the web applications. So framework comes with that. So whenever you set up any framework, all the basic need of the web app, you already have it. You don't have to configure it from scratch. You don't have to code it from scratch. So let us suppose in order to set up a basic project, it might take you 48 hours. With framework, the same activity you can do it in less than 30 minutes, because all the ready-made stuff you will already have it, and you just have to write your own business logic about the framework to get the work done. And if I talk about framework, the best example is Laravel. It is a PHP framework, Laravel. I hope you might have heard about it. Yes. So in this video, we will be discussing about all this in detail, especially the evolution of web from the web developer's perspective. So let's get started. So if I talk about the overview, so we will be discussing two things. In the first phase, we will be discussing in detail about the early days of dynamic web. In early days, how web developers used to build web applications. And in the second part of the video, we will be discussing about the present day dynamic web. How web developers are developing web applications in the present day. Very interesting. Okay, so now let's look into how web developers used to develop web applications in the early days. So, in early days, writing a web application was a very tedious task. Okay, so See, in order to write any web application, you have to write unique business logic. So every web application has got a unique business logic. For example, if I talk about, let us suppose you are making a social media site, social media web app, then it will have a unique business logic related to networking, connections. And let us suppose you are making a video streaming platform like YouTube, it will have a different business logic which will be related to content creation. Similarly, every idea you are implementing an e-commerce, it is having a different business logic. So every idea has got its own business logic. So we have to write it. And the second is the common functionality, common features. We have already seen it. Let's look it into detail. So see, every web application, when you look at it in carefully, you will see that it has got some common functionalities like user authentication. Either you use YouTube, you have to log in, sign up, authentication. Either you use Facebook, you have to use authentication. Any web application, user authentication is common, that is login sign up. And in every web application, you are taking inputs from the user. So whenever you are taking input from the user, you have to validate the input validation is very important from the security point of view also, and in order to enhance the user experience also. So input validation is something which is common across all the platform. Database access, every web application uses a database. So what database helps in persisting the data, means with database the data will remain forever. So database access is same for all the web applications. The way is same, but definitely SQL query will be different, the database model will be different, but the way will be similar. Means that how to create a table, uh, populate the data, fetch the data, delete the data, operations will be similar across all the web applications. So these all are, and one more we have already discussed about it. It is templates, and many more common functionalities we can see across multiple web applications. So whenever we write a web application, we have to write the unique business logic and also the common modules we have to implement it. But earlier, what used to happen? We used to write everything from scratch. So this is the, so earlier the developers used to build everything from scratch. So this was very cumbersome. So for example, managing routing by yourself. Okay, so see what is a web application? So web application accepts a request and generates a response. So a web application may contain many modules, many. So whenever it gets any request, it route that request to a particular module. That module process that request and generate a response, which is given back. So either the response can be in a form of an HTML, which will be shown in the web browser, or it can be in a form of a JSON data, which will be consumed by the mobile apps. So routing, you have to manage route by your own self if you are building everything from scratch. So managing routing means you have to pick a HTTP request and response library, a library to manage the request and response mechanism. We have to pick it by our own self. This activity we have to do. We have to pick a router by our own self. Nobody else is going to do it for us. We have to set up some routes configurations file by our own self. So all the routing activities related to routing, we have to do it by our own self. Similarly, controllers we have to manage by our own self. You already have heard about model view controller architecture. So controller in itself is a very deep mechanism. So we have to implement all the controllers by our own self. If we are building everything from scratch, and also the dependency injection, very important. So dependency injection means the connections among the components and the third party components. So the dependency and all. So that also we have to manage by our own self. We have to write everything from scratch. The routing procedure, all the routing algorithms, controllers, and dependency injection, we have to write it from scratch. And you can just imagine how tedious it is. Because whenever you are making any standard web application, which you are planning to deploy it as a product, you have to take care of all these things and many more. And you have to, so earlier the web developers, they used to implement all these stuffs from scratch. So now we are getting an idea about the struggle and the hard work which the earlier days web developers used to do. Yes, and see, if you are building everything from scratch, then automatically there will be a maintenance issue, issue, code maintenance issue. Because see, whenever you are writing everything from scratch, you are making your own custom framework. Because it is your, you will be using your own algorithms, you will be using your own design patterns. It will be a custom framework made by you, and you have to remember each and everything about it. Where is the configuration file? Okay, what all is contained in this file? Everything, all the design patterns you will be using. You have to remember it, each and everything. And let us suppose you are managing 5 6 projects. It will be a very difficult task for you to remember each and everything. Yes. So now we got an idea about the struggle of web developers in the old days, earlier times. Now let's look into the present day dynamic web. In the present day, what how the web developers are developing web applications. So in present day, the web developers are equipped with thousands of components and libraries. We are fortunate that we are equipped with thousands of components and libraries. For example, let us suppose you are making an e-commerce application. You have to implement the cart. There is a library for cart. You just have to plug it in your project, and all the functionality of the cart will be implemented automatically. This is called code reusability. You have to implement payment gateway. There are third party libraries for it. You just have to plug it in your project, and your project will have a payment gateway. You have to implement the concept of email. You have to send email via your web application. There are libraries for that. So there are libraries for each and everything, each and every common functionality. So you just have to plug it to make your project, to make your dynamic web application feature rich. You can add many features to enhance the user experience and to add more value to the user. Thus, and in the present day, the web developers are equipped with dozens of development frameworks. So, as we have already seen, what is a framework? Framework is a collection of components, collection of packages, and also some ready-made stuff which is used across all the applications. We have already seen, if we talk about web application, there are many functionality which is common, like authentication, database access, and your input validation, templates, routing, controllers, dependency injections, and many more. Framework comes with all these things. Frameworks comes with all these things. This is the beauty of the framework. So if you just have to set up a framework and all the standard basic architecture of the web application, you already have it. You just have to focus on your business logic and implement your business logic on top of it to make a standard ready to deploy web application. It is very important, and that's why framework plays a very important role. And regardless of the technology you are using, whether you are using let us suppose Python, or you are using PHP, you are using Go language, Ruby on Rails, Node.js. There are frameworks for every technology. For Python, we have Django, we have Flask. For PHP, we have Cake PHP. We have this Code Igniter, Symfony, Laravel. For Node.js, we have Express, and list goes on. So, regardless of the technology you are using, you have the framework for it, and you can implement it. So, with framework, you will have a ready to deploy web application. You just have to focus on business logic. It makes your life very easy. Yes. And in the present day, there is a tussle among web developers. So tussle for which framework to use. So see, we are equipped with dozens of frameworks. Every framework has got its pros and cons based on the business need. For example, you are planning to make a news website or a blogging web app. So for that, WordPress will do the job for you. You are planning to make an e-commerce web application, then there will be a particular framework for that which will be more suitable. So there is always a tussle between the framework, which framework to use. So in the present day, web developers are always in a struggle in deciding, okay, which framework I should use. So for that, you have to be aware about the pros and cons of each and every framework. Okay, if I talk about Code Igniter, what are its pros and cons? Laravel, what are its pros and cons? When to use Laravel, when to use Symfony, when to use Flask, when to use Django. So this you should know. Deciding the framework is a challenge in the present day. And one more very interesting insight I want to share with you. Beginners, many beginner web developers, they completely ignore frameworks. Many startups or many entrepreneurs who are building a prototype for their startup, they also ignore framework. They try to implement each and everything from scratch, code from scratch. I strictly recommend you to give some time in learning a framework and always do development in framework, because you have already seen the power of framework. With framework, you already have a ready to deploy web application, because see, whenever you deploy the web application, there will your web application will be exposed to the world. It will be used by many users, and it will be having lots of issues like security issues, encryption, decryption, that SQL injections, routing issues, scalability issue. Your web application will start crashing. Its response time will decrease. But with framework, all the standard architecture, all the design patterns are implemented. So you don't have to worry about it. And one more very important advantage you get using the framework is that uh, you knowledge transfer becomes very easy. For example, let us suppose you want to hire any new developer for your project. So if he is aware about that framework, let us suppose you are working on Laravel, and if he knows about Laravel, in just a day, he can get equipped with your project. He just have to focus on the unique business logic. That's it. And rest he already knows. Okay, from here I will get all the database related files. Here I will get all the controllers. Here I will get all the dependencies. This is the folder for all the third party libraries. So KT, knowledge transfer, becomes very easy, and code maintenance will also become very easy. Let us suppose after 2 years also you revisit your code. Everything is structured. Everything is following a standard convention. So that's why always use framework. And we are very much fortunate that we in the present day we are equipped with so many tools, so many stuff. With this, we can easily make some big stuff. All the things you are planning to make, the next big thing which you are planning to implement, you can do. So, what are you waiting for? Let's code and let's make something big. So thanks for your valuable time. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please like it, comment on it so that I can get an idea. You can share your feedbacks so that I can look into it, I can improve it on it, and do share it in your circle. Thanks once again.